Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Coming through loud and clear, I hope. Oh, Oregon. Nice. And from Morioka and New Hampshire. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. It is a cloudy Sunday morning here in Iwate Prefecture in Morioka, Japan. Hello, hello. Today is the middle of Obon, which is I've heard it described as the Japanese Day of the Dead, but it's a little bit different from that. Actually, yeah, well, I'll talk about Abona in a minute. We'll just say hello to everybody. So yeah, it's been actually really cool up here in Morioka since Kathy is asking, have you staying cool out there? Oh, you're talking to Fujinaka, I see. Thank you. Thank you for staying up at 2 a.m. in the United Kingdom. Yeah. Smoke evening. Yeah, yeah. It was incredibly hot up here, like painfully hot. So I didn't go hiking for the longest time. And then it suddenly got really cool. And it was actually so cold, I had to pull a blanket out of the closet a few nights ago to avoid having cold feet so I could sleep. So it's nice, but it's sadly been raining. So we had three um, typhoons hit Japan or the extended area, the archipelago, at once, which is kind of nuts. And so I haven't actually been hiking in about nearly 2 weeks now. It's been painful. I'm just itching to get out there. I might go in the rain. Oh, hello out to Germany. The Olympics here, yeah, that's a complicated issue. I mean, yeah, it was nice, and people were really happy. Japan won a lot of awards, but there were a lot of people who were opposed to the Olympics, and of course now COVID is exploding in Japan, and certainly the Olympics might be a contributing factor. So the Olympics is sort of a complicated issue. Hey, JQ, I like the Q. Hey, much love out to Maine. Very nice, very nice. So I'm curious, how many of you have even heard of the Japanese festival Obon? Because from at least in this region of Japan, it's August 13th through 16th is Obon. It's in July in Tokyo for some reason. But oh hey, Wisconsin. Went to Rhineland the first time today. It's nice, nice. Ohio, back up to you, and Aomori. Danielle, I don't think I've met you. Hello, neighbor. So it's hey, Captain Burns. Most people during Obon go out to the graveyards and sort of clean the graves and make offerings of rice and like this rice and red bean thing. And monks will come out and chant and stuff like that. And people light a little fire in front of their houses and stuff. They call it mukaibi because they believe that their dead ancestors come back to visit their families during this Obon period, which usually it's like 3 days, 13th through the 16th, and it's pretty neat. If you go past the graveyards, there's monks chanting and incense is burning, and it's all pretty neat. Oh, interesting, Chris. Yeah, so you did a presentation comparing Obon to Dia de los Muertos. I'm curious how they compare. I only know passingly about Dia de los Muertos. I'm curious what the thing behind. Hey, thank you. It's a she. I really appreciate that. Buy beer. I will buy beer. I thank you very kindly. With that, I can buy myself a nice IPA. Um, Otterin, it's kind of like Halloween, but if I remember correctly, the roots of Halloween are about scaring away evil spirits. Whereas this, they're not scary spirits or demons. It's rather your deceased grandparents or parents, maybe depending on your age, who are coming back to visit you. Yes, I must buy beer. I will. Yeah, the vibes are a little different from Halloween. We don't really dress up during Obon. Wait, no, I mean you just wear nice clothes, if anything, because you're visiting everybody. It's like Thanksgiving almost. You go back to your family house in the countryside if you're living in a big city. And to jump, forgive me for jumping back and forth, but I'll be responding to comments while I talk about Obon a little bit. But yes, I totally miss Wisconsin beer. I don't think a lot of people know just how good beer in Wisconsin is because something about the way the tax laws are, they don't export it because beer breweries have to sell to a distributor first before it is like a weird complicated process, and they end up losing money if they sell beer outside of Wisconsin. So all the good Wisconsin craft beer is just consumed in Wisconsin. Greetings from the Netherlands. What would you consider a must-see for a seasoned Japan traveler? There's a lot of things. It depends on what sort of stuff you Are you more interested in cities and culture, or like natural landscapes, or festivals? There's a lot of different answers. There's Japan's, like a lot of countries, full of really fantastic stuff to check out. But definitely this whole northern Tohoku region, Yamagata, Fukushima, Iwate, Akita, Aomori. This is, as a group that I coined this term, the last frontier. Iwate, the last frontier, as we had like the least tourism of anywhere. So if you want to go off the trodden path, you come up here. Hey, wow, India! Greetings back to you, Ariant. Yeah, spotted cow is good. I do like spotted cow. It's a Wisconsin beer. But to give you one thing that maybe must see, I think if you come up in the wintertime, to see the snow monsters, as they call them, these trees that get completely coated in hoarfrost, I think it's called. And based on the humidity and the wind and the temperature, you get these vast landscapes of like Godzilla-shaped trees that you can see generally from mid or late January through March. And given the way climate change is going, I'd probably want to see them in the next few years, because who knows how much longer we'll have the right conditions for it. If I had to pick one spot in northern Japan for a first-time visitor to the country, first-time visitor, one spot. That's a really good question. In northern Japan. Ah. Again, to be totally honest though, first-time visitors to Japan generally go what's called the Golden Route, which is between Tokyo and Kyoto and those areas. And I think it does make sense, because when people imagine Japan, you think about the temples and of course we have temples, but there's a lot of really famous places, Kiyomizu-dera in Kyoto and things like that, where people want to see that first. They want to see everything they've seen on TV, the Fushimi Shrine with the tunnel of the red arches, stuff like that. So to be totally honest, I'd say come here on your second trip to Japan. If you're coming to Japan for the first time, do all the normal stuff, probably for your first trip. It makes sense to explore Tokyo, Kyoto, maybe go down to Hiroshima, things like that. And then on your second or third trip, come up north is what I would say. Oh, thank you. I've actually, Jess, Kawaii Jess, I've actually made, I think, 3 videos of it, because the snow monsters, there's like 4 favorite, there's 3 really famous places for them, but Hachimanta is the 4th. It's just harder because you have to hike to get there. But Zao and Hakoda and Morioshi in Toku are the 3 main places to see them. And I think I've made a video for each. Well, not Zao yet. I got to do that this winter. Hey, back to the USA. Ichinoseki. Hisashi Fujinaka is a fan of Ichinoseki. Ichinoseki is a city a couple hours south of here. It's on the very southern part of Iwate, and it's right next to Hiraizumi, which was a capital, well, not a capital, which was an important city that has this golden temple and was a huge center of civilization about 1,000 years ago, and was the place where a famous Japanese warrior duo died, Benkei and Yoshitsune. But that's a whole cool story, and about a fierce warrior monk who died standing up, pierced by 100 arrows. It's yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff around Ichinoseki for sure. Oh, great question. Millie's mom says, once in northern Japan, is local transportation fairly easy to use, or do you recommend renting a car? The buses aren't, well, the long distance buses to get between cities are pretty easy to use. But that said, a lot of the buses aren't that frequent. You can do it. You can do it by mass transit. It's okay. But if you do or can get an international driver's license, as much as I'm a fan of mass transit philosophically and think we should all drive less and et cetera, if you're just here for a week or two, you're going to have a much better time if you can rent a car. The roads are really easy to drive on. It's relaxing. You can stop wherever you want. You don't have to worry about time, and you can visit a lot of areas that have no mass transit coverage. So yeah, as much as I hate to say car. Chimichanga, love the name. Yes. Are there snow monkeys in the mountains that you like? No, it's funny. Monkeys, of course, are really big in Nagano, and there's a place in Aomori. If you look at a map of Japan, you see that Japan has this little hook on top of Aomori, on the very northern part of the main island. And this is called the Shimokita Hanto, Shimokita Peninsula. And up there, they have monkeys, and they're called the northernmost monkeys. They have a name and everything. But somehow in Iwate, monkeys once in a while pass across, individual ones going between groups, but there's no big group of them. There's no mountain you can hike in Iwate where you're likely to see monkeys. I've never seen them here. There is an island off the coast of Miyagi called Kinkasan, which has a small mountain. And I actually recommend Kinkasan. There's hundreds of monkeys and hundreds of wild but docile deer there as well. And so when you hike this little mountain, I mean, it takes like all of 45 minutes to hike to the summit, but nice views. When you hike there, when I did it, I was surrounded by monkeys and deer as well. It was really neat. I was there for a job, so I couldn't make a video of it, but I want to go back there and record that. I've never been to the Sapporo Snow Festival, but I'd like to go. I was just in Sapporo actually last month, and Sapporo is an amazing town. Jess, thank you so much. You would love to see collab in the near future. Okay, yeah, I'm open for if you know anyone who you think I could collaborate with or do a video with, let me know, or let them know. Oh, I'm so glad you like the merch. Oh yeah, thank you for mentioning that. So yeah, as you can see, I'm wearing a sweatshirt, right? It's actually today warmer. Yesterday, this would have been perfect. Today, I'm just a little hot, but I wanted to show you that, yeah, there is merch. There's a link on the YouTube page. You can do it. Oh, wow, it's just flooding in. Ohayou gozaimasu. Hey, hey, driver. We're eating ramen and an izakaya in Texas right now. I didn't even know that was possible. That's great to hear that you can do that in Texas. Hello out to Texas. And Millie's mom, thank you. Waterproof socks for typhoon hiking. Thank you. I will get them. In fact, that's what's funny. I totally need better waterproofing gear because when it's raining, I have a nice raincoat. But then because I didn't wear waterproof pants, I just had the gaiters. You can wear gaiters which hook on your feet and go up to your knees kind of. And basically, when walking through the brush, the water came off on my pants, soaked my pants, went under my gaiters, soaked into my socks, and I ended up like walking squish, 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 like totally soaked with little lakes in each boot. And so the moral of the story is, yeah, waterproof pants over your normal pants and maybe waterproof socks as well. Thank you very much. Yeah, I need to get a job because there's been I've been doing guiding and stuff, but the tourism still isn't starting yet. And so I'm, yeah, have more free time than usual. But it looks like there's a lot of stuff happening too with adventure tourism. And I'm collaborating with some other people to so that when tourism gets started, there'll be a lot going on. And Blank Autumn says, for first visit, avoid winter, as many places, especially the rurals, will be closed. Well, that's good advice, but it depends on what you like. A lot of people come here specifically in the winter because up here in northern Tohoku, we have some of the best powder snow in Japan, and it's really popular as a winter resort if you like backcountry skiing, snowboarding, or just normal skiing at resorts. A lot of people come up from Australia and over from China as well for some of the larger resorts. And snowshoeing is great as well. Have you ever climbed Mount Fuji? I climbed Mount Fuji in 2003. And even back then, God, that was a long time ago. That was right after I came to Japan, pretty much. It was so crowded. I mean, I did take, I can't remember the name of the route. I think it was one of the more popular ones because I just took a bus to get there. Excuse me. Went down the wrong pipe. Mount Fuji was so crowded. It was like a parade going all the way to the top. It didn't feel like hiking. It felt like just walking in a nonstop festival up to the top. There was a vending machine on the summit. There were all these shops everywhere. I mean, yeah, I mean, the view, everyone, you want to see the view of the sunrise because you hike up in the late afternoon or evening so that you are up on the top. And when you see the sunrise coming up, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it is a massive volcano with a big caldera in the center. It's cool. But I think it's one of those things you do once and that's enough. I mean, maybe I should try it again because I've recently, I know a photographer down in the Kanto area who recently hiked it via a different trail. And some people have been saying you go these other trails and it's much more interesting. So maybe I will give it another go through a route that no one takes because apparently there are some. But my one experience was so blah that I'm not psyched for doing Fuji again. I mean, it's not difficult. It's just long. I mean, just walk up. You know, even then I wasn't hiking at all and I didn't feel physically challenged, just got really sunburned. Jess, Oh, so you asked Norm from Tokyo Lens. I've met Norm actually. He came up for a tourism sort of job. He got hired as a consultant and sort of influencer, and I met him then. And also, he's friends with Chris and Charla, who I know. Um, yeah, if he had time, I'd love to collaborate with him. But generally speaking, it's harder. It's a bigger ask to collab with people who are much, much, much more well known and larger than you. If he had time to collab with me, I'd be totally down for it. But to speak really bluntly, there's not much in it for him to collab with me. He doesn't get anything out of it. But it'd be fun, sure. Yeah, Charlotte's game for collaborating anytime. I've done videos with Charlotte before. I could go down to Sendai where she moved and go off to her to the Zao. Zao is a really cool area with a account and thing like that. Jay, thanks. I'm able to get in with a spouse visa. Otherwise, they start letting anyone in Japan. Oh, nice. Well, that's good. The spouse visa is a good way to do it. Oh, hold on a second. I appear to be missing some questions. Let me see if I can find some. Okay. Have you ever been to hike? Oh, someone asked before, have you ever been up to Hokkaido? I did. This is really embarrassing. I somehow, Hokkaido is so close that I had been just not bothering for the longest time. Really dumb move. So I recently went up to Hokkaido in July, up to Sapporo. And Sapporo is a great town. It's really, really nice. And I do want to go hiking in Sapporo. I'm on Facebook in some hiking in Japan sort of Facebook groups, and some people who have been posting photos of their trips in Hokkaido. It just looks amazingly beautiful. There's so many great mountains. I've just got a weird complex about Hokkaido because there's a lot of what do you call it? Brown bears, higuma, up there, and it's not really a risk. I'm sure it's very safe, but there have been 4 different instances in the news this year where they haven't even found all of the bodies. They like devoured someone and just left pieces. And I know that's like being struck by lightning. It's not much of a risk, but it's enough to make me, um, a little hesitant. But I'll get up to Hokkaido. That's a silly reason not to go to Hokkaido. If you go in a group, you have bear spray, you have bears, it's probably totally safe to hike in Hokkaido. I'm just being unnecessarily wussy about it. Someone else asked, I was curious if there were towns up north that have specific yokai and folklore in comparison with the south. Yeah, definitely, definitely. We're full of that up here. Tono is a great example. Tono, a famous anthropologist, went up there little about 100 years ago and wrote a book about Tono. Tono's great. They even call themselves the hometown of folklore. Another is up in Ninohe. There's something called the Zashiki Warashi, which is all over northern Japan, but specifically there's a ryokan that's haunted up there that has this little child ghost. That's the Zashiki Warashi. There's in Akita, there's a lot of that. That's a whole topic for a video, actually. What is your recommendation for festivals starting in October? I think they're still all canceled, sadly. Generally speaking, October, to be honest, more festivals are in September than in October. Right off the top of my head, I can't even think of any in October because most of them are in August and September. But even so, the ones this year are canceled. Okay. Someone else asking, is this forest green or Irish green? I believe this is forest green. Yes, I'm going to go with that. Inaka Adventure, who also does really hilarious videos. I totally recommend, if you have fair time, to check out Inaka Adventure. You left a comment saying, a wise man climbs Mount Fuji once and a fool climbs it twice. First of all, I totally agree with that, though maybe there are exceptions. Maybe there's some things about it I don't know. But he makes hilarious videos. Specifically, he did one of the Tottori sand dunes that's hilarious. And also his Japanese toilet video. As much as that topic has been done to death, his video on that is absolutely hilarious. I was guffawing. Totally recommend checking his channel out. Do I miss Wisconsin cheese? How's cheese in Japan? All right, now you're making me sad. Yes, I miss Wisconsin cheese. Whenever I go back to Wisconsin, I basically fill up a small cooler full of cheese and put that in my suitcase, and specifically bring a ridiculous suitcase so I can bring back as much cheese as possible. Cheese in Japan is generally blah and meh. And there is good cheese, but it's really, really, really expensive. And I'm just spoiled with how cheap, amazingly good craft artisanal cheese in Wisconsin is. Yeah, I know, stereotype, Wisconsin cheeseheads, et cetera, but it's a fact. We have amazingly good cheese. I think that a lot of our cheese rivals various European countries I won't mention. What would you say is an appropriate amount of time to allocate in an area or city during a visit to Japan? Not short enough to feel rushed, but not so long that you can't see other places. That's a great question. That's a really good question. I think it really depends on the length of your trip into Japan, how much time you can spend, and yeah, it depends on the city too. Well, let's take Morioka, for example. Even though in Morioka itself, I would say to one day is enough to see the things you'd want to see in the city. But if you just leave your stay in Morioka, you can take day trips, especially with the various rail passes and mass transit things, and you can go to all the way to Kakunodate in Aomori, which is famous for its samurai district. You can go down to Hiraizumi in southern Iwate for the various gorgeous river boat rides through gorges, the Golden Temple, these famous thousand-year-old mummies that are there. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. So you could easily spend 3 or 4 or 5 days in Morioka taking day trips and or going skiing if it's the winter. And so it depends. That's a hard thing. I can't, you know what I mean? It's case each case would be different, but I think if there's a lot of stuff in the general area, and it depends on the way you like to travel. But for me, carrying all your stuff from place to place limits what you can do until you've checked in, and it's a hassle and stressful. So if you can stay in one place for 3 to 5 days and then just shoot out from there to visit lots of other places, for me, that's a better traveling experience. I hope that kind of answers the question. Luther says, aside from Yamabushi training, are there any other or history or folklore based experiences you could recommend first timers in Japan? Well, first of all, the Yamabushi training is fantastic. And if you've never heard of that, just Google Yamabushi and Yamagata. A friend of mine from New Zealand, Tim Bunting, is one of these. He calls himself the Kiwi. Well, he is the Kiwi Yamabushi, and and him and other Japanese Yamabushi will take you to amazing experiences of these itinerant ascetic mountain monk things. And that's something I should let him talk about. Um, and in addition to that, well, there's a lot of pilgrimages that you can kind of do. It's not exactly mountain, but of course around Shikoku, there's the Kobo Daishi, the Kukai monk. It's like 88 locations, this really long thing that you can do parts of where you can dress up and get a walking stick and visit all these different sites on the pilgrimage. There's a number of those pilgrimages in different areas of Japan. And a lot more adventure travel type stuff is opening up. Of course, the Kumino Kodo also has some interesting experiences, but in terms of actual out in the mountains, traditional experiences, not newer ones, but really traditional ones, the Yamabushi is the only one. Well, in addition to that, I would say go foraging. You can find tours these days or hook up with me and I'm making it happen in the spring or fall, and foraging for wild vegetables or mushrooms is traditional culture and out in the mountains. And you can pair that then with afterwards learning how to cook them, local sake, all sorts of stuff like that. Where do you buy the bear spray? Nowadays, you can get it on Amazon. Yeah, I'm sorry if you don't want to give Bezos money. You could probably find it in some mountain shops, Mondel and things like that. But the easiest, most convenient way is just Amazon. They sell it. I bought mine from a mountain guide who had imported it from Germany. And so what I have is a German brand one that a mountain guide just bought in bulk so that he could, sell to his friends. Um, I also like watching Tokyo Lens's videos, especially those about abandoned towns and hidden shrines in the forest. Are there ever? We have so many, well, not whole abandoned towns per se, but there's a lot of ruins out in the forest. And in fact, I'm thinking of visiting an abandoned hydropower plant again soon. It's one that I've gone to several times, and it's just beautiful. The interior has lofted roofs, huge windows. It almost looks like an abandoned church. I actually went there with Charla last year, I think it was, and she made a video of it, and it was okay. I was a little wondering if it was okay to make a video, but Charla did, and that I took her there. I was in that video, and it's she didn't get in any trouble or get scolded or anything, so it must be okay. So I want to go there again soon and show you my own take on that location because it's just beautiful. Um, and there's a lot of shrines out in the middle of forests, things like that. I may try and do more things like that in the future as well. I know I will. That sounds like fun. I also appreciate that sort of thing. I took Chris out to one of these really famous old apartment complexes. Chris Broad, I mean, earlier this month, I think earlier this year in March. And if you haven't seen, Chris Broad has a second channel, not abroad in Japan. I think it's called Chris Abroad. And if you just scroll down through there, maybe 10 videos back, You can see me. I'm in the thumbnail, and it's just featuring me doing narration, walking around this old complex, and it's really well filmed. They used an 8K camera for that. All right, I'm missing a lot of texts. I see Hisashi Fujinaka saying Sendai is cool. Yes, Sendai is very cool. I love Sendai. Sendai is a great town. I love visiting Sendai. Once some COVID eases up, I'm definitely gonna go there. How is my skin so healthy? Well, thank you. I don't think anyone has ever said that before. Thanks. I don't. I'm. Yeah, I don't know what to say to that except thank you. I don't think my skin is particularly healthy. I get like dry skin and pimples and stuff. That's one of the things that I thought once you get past like your late 20s or 30s, you wouldn't get pimples anymore. As a teenager, I always assumed that, but yeah, no. If I eat a lot of chocolate or ice cream, I still get oily skin and pimples. So I don't know. Thanks though. I want to ask someone else for skin advice. I don't do enough. I know some people have whole things they do. How cold in the mountains of Hokkaido? Yeah, I don't think they're that cold. I don't have personal experience. Again, my irrational trepidation around the man-eating brown bears of Hokkaido have kept me from hiking them so far. But I don't think they're that cold. I mean, if you have a normal, fleece and a hard shell, it's fine. I mean, I check the weather up there just dreaming about it once in a while, but it's not that bad. In the wintertime, sure. In the middle of the winter, you've got to be advanced or nearly pro level to go up there. But for spring through fall, well, for summer and fall hikes, I think it's fine. Could you please tell your mountain earthquake experience? Ah, okay. Yeah, I did a video a few months back. I think that was in May, where I was up hiking Mount Iwate, like always, and there was an earthquake while we were about halfway, a little over halfway up, and yeah, it was kind of long. It was like maybe a 30-second earthquake, and there was just all this gravel and sand and stuff started falling down, and we were kind of on an open, exposed area, and with a lot of rocks, and I could see the gravel starting to go below us. In the end, it wasn't dangerous at all, but it just made me nervous because there were all these big rocks everywhere, and I was afraid something big might go. And so, yeah, we carefully sort of moved off to the side to where the trees were, but it was okay. I mean, it would just more than anything was kind of unnerving to hear what sounded like landslides and what must have been very minor landslides of all the loose gravel on top just going down. Um, it was loud, but not that loud. I was also on a very short, small earthquake, a volcanic earthquake, on the other side of Mount Iwate, right near Nanatake, the waterfall. It went thump. It was just like a up one earthquake, and I've heard that has to do with the lava underneath, and that was also a little unnerving. Jess, thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, I am very appreciative. Um, that video is really amazing. The man who explores, yeah, the Chris Broad video, the Chris Broad channel. Oh, thank you. Well, thank you. Yeah, I worked hard at that narration. I did, to be honest, I did a few takes of that. I have a mic in sort of a little studio at home, and I would do a take and send it to Chris, and he'd say, "Yeah, do it again." And he was sort of coached me until I got it just how he liked it for that video. That was a great time. I enjoyed that collaboration with him. Um, Curious as to how bad snakes are in Japan compared to other places in the world. We always hear about bears, but never anything about snakes. Snakes aren't that bad, not in my experience. Um, I see snakes on the trails now and again, but to be honest, I generally see sort of grass snakes. Basically, there's a number of local snakes. Two varieties that are up here are poisonous. One is mamushi, which are small and extraordinarily poisonous. You can die from a mamushi bite, but I've only seen them dead on the road, run over by cars. I mean, I've never seen them in mountains. I think they like to bask in warmer places and they're not generally up on mountains. And so in my 10 years up in Iwate, I've never had any trouble from mamushi, but I have heard that they're can be dangerous. And Yamakagashi is another type of snake. They're red and black, and they're poisonous. And I have seen them up in the mountains because they're up in the mountains. And but I've heard they have two different ways of biting you. If they just bite you a little bit, you're not going to get the venom. They have to like go like bite, and then they have like other teeth or venom injectors in the back of their mouth, and they have to like do a double clomp on you in order for you to get a dangerous amount of venom. And so they're not that dangerous. It's not as bad as like all the rattlesnakes we have, even in Wisconsin. If you're going to empty towns and ever hear about programs or towns up north that involve restoring and helping dying communities, please email me. That's great. That's a great question. What I do know is there's a number of volunteers, not volunteers. There's a number of people who like work for sort of NGOs, NPOs type things, who come up and live in towns and try and promote them as places for people to come and live. For example, Tono is a small town, maybe 30,000 people ish. That's famous for folklore and kappa and all these myths. That's the place where the famous anthropologist was 100 years ago and wrote a book, the Tono Monogatari, that I've quoted in some of my videos. Tono has, I know some people who work for a nonprofit where they help people from Tokyo, like digital nomads, artists, creatives, people who want to start farms. They help them connect with local people and find places to live and find people to work with. And so that type of thing exists. And if you want to be put in touch with them and like, I don't know, to donate money, or if you're thinking of moving there yourself, yeah, send me a direct message or an email and I can connect you with someone who even speaks English to some degree, who works with them in trying to help people relocate to at least Tono. I know that there are similar organizations on the coast and in different areas, but I only have a personal connection with the one in Tono. Were you affected by the typhoon a while back? Not really. To be fair, Morioka's got two mountain ranges. We've got on our west side the O mountain range, of which Mount Iwate is one part, and on the east the Kitakami mountain range, which is between us and the Pacific coast. And so typhoons are never really bad in Morioka. On the coast, they can be kind of bad. Oh, no, they can be very bad on the coast up here. But yeah, where I live inland, it's like some wind, some rain, and it's always like, oh, that was a typhoon. That was like wreaking such havoc down south. Here, it was nothing. So up here, it's not bad. I wanted to tell you that I find your videos very relaxing. Whenever I need a break, I just watch one of your hiking videos and it calms me down. Thank you. That's wonderful to hear. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I enjoy making them. Good morning to Australia. How are you holding up with the lockdowns, the situation in Japan? Yeah, well, it's getting worse. It's just exploding in Japan right now. It's the worst that it's ever been since the beginning of the pandemic here now. And in fact, of course, Tokyo and a lot of places around there are in a state of emergency. We just got what they're calling in English a state of vigilance in Iwate. Basically, not the national government, but the governor of Iwate declared that. And so I'm not supposed to, leave the prefecture, or do a number of other things up here too. It's yeah, it's really bad, and vaccines are pretty slow up here. So yeah, the hospitals are overloaded. It's not great. It's not, but I don't have a workplace. I don't have a real job right now, so it's easy for me to isolate and yeah, just wear a mask everywhere I go. I don't eat out. I'm doing okay personally because my hobby is going up in the mountains anyways. But it's not great in Japan. Miki, originally from Iwate. Yes, thank you for coming. Hello from Indianapolis, Indiana. Nice. Hello back to you. And is there any famous tourist hiking spot that many foreigners go hike in Iwate that are known for tourists, not just Japanese, to hike there? For hiking, well, recently the Michinoku Coastal Trail, which is that new 1,000-kilometer trail. In fact, the next video that I'm releasing probably in the next few days or within the next week is again going to be in one spot along that trail. But it starts in Hachinohe and Aomori and goes all the way down through northern Fukushima. And a lot of, yeah, people like these through trails, right? And so there's a lot of foreigners that have been hiking all the way through or various chunks of that, and that's popular among tourists. There's different campsites and hostels along it and places for you to do it. So it's yeah, that's a one. Also, yeah, Hachimantai is another one. There's a Mount Hachimantai, which isn't much of a mountain; it's more of a plateau. But that in the spring still has meters and meters of snow, and it's casual enough for the whole family to come. And so a lot of tourists and Japanese people alike will go up there and just do little circuits or various hikes in the summit of the Hachimantai, which is in the Hachimantai National Park, and it's gorgeous. Hello to Texas. What were the people of Morioka's opinions on the Olympics? Well, they were all over the place. Some people were very excited and happy and glued to their TV screens. Other people were upset that they were held and thought it was a bad, dangerous idea, and were sort of refusing to watch them. So it's, yeah, there's people on all sides of the map for the Olympics. I've been learning that I'm very good at selling places and getting people interested in places. Perhaps that skill will be yeah, it definitely will, Jasmine. That's great. Um, Thanks, Good Adventure. What is your advice on IC contact information and or check-in, check-out type of services? Oh, that's interesting. I don't actually know about this ICE thing. Um, well, I would say you can use various apps where you can register your location on the app, and also you can get hiking insurance through like this YAMAP, YAMAP, which is, I believe they have it in English now as well as in Japanese. And so you can get hiking insurance and even like a beacon through that. There's also things that you can get on the fly. I think it's called something. I'll have to look this up and post about it later, but there's like helicopter rescue that you can register for online, that you get a little beacon to take with you everywhere, and it's really, really reasonably priced. Then worst case scenario, helicopter comes for you and it's covered by the insurance. So there's some options. I haven't. Yeah, I just got into hiking while living in Japan because I've been living here for 20 years, and so I don't know about the IC, the ways that you do that if you're hiking in the States or Europe or wherever that is a thing. Do you ever swim when you visit the Sanriku coast? I do sometimes. There's a place called Jodokohama in Miyako, which is a famous tourist location, and it's just beautiful, and you can really swim there. There's a place that I love, these really hidden private beaches that, in fact, the next video I'll release shows a couple of those or one of those. And I tend to wade up to my waist, but I'm from Wisconsin. I'm from the middle of the United States, and so I'm used to swimming in lakes and quarries and things like that. I'm sometimes rivers, but I hear so many stories about tides pulling people out, and I'm not that. As for all my life in Japan, I've lived inland and I visit the ocean, but I'm not like an ocean person, and so I'm not sure how to tell when it's dangerous to go in the ocean, when you might get sucked out or something, and so I'm cautious. And I love standing in the waves and feeling the waves beating against me, but I don't go swimming in the ocean unless it's a protected swimming place. But if you know oceans well, there's a lot of places on the Sanriku coast that if you were someone who knew how to look and judge, oh, this is safe, they're just gorgeous and there's no one there. There's lots of great places for swimming that are just beautiful, probably for snorkeling as well. What's your favorite local sake from Iwate? Thank you for craft beer reading. Okay, sake. Yeah, I have a lot of favorite local sakes, and I actually got a certification last year, or no, I guess it was in the beginning of this year. So I am technically an international certified international sake sommelier. So it's about knowing about sake and also about how to pair it with food and stuff like that. I mean, it's not that difficult of a certification, but I wanted to have something I could stick on, resume or business card or something. So to answer your question, this is the Nambutoji area. There's a lot of different there are three main sake producing groups of brewmasters, and the largest one is up here, focused in Tohoku in Iwate, the Nambutoji. Nambu being the old feudal name for Iwate. And I could talk about this topic for an hour, so I'll keep this brief. But my favorite one is still in that original location, Ishidoriya, which is where the Nambutoji came from. It's called Kawamura Shuzo, and they make a sake called Yoemon. It's really hard to get in liquor stores because he doesn't want to compromise his production methods. And so the owner and the brewmaster don't increase the size of the facility, no matter how popular it is and how many people love it. They keep it small. And so I believe there's only 2 or 3 liquor stores in Morioka where you can even buy it. Of course, if you go to bars, a lot of bars carry it. You can drink it if you're at an izakaya or a sake bar. But in terms of buying a bottle to bring home, hit me up later and I can send you a link for where in Morioka or in Hanamaki and Iwate you can buy that sake. But it's amazing. I've recommended it to other tourists, and when they try it, they've loved it, and they end up buying as much as they can to bring back. It's really good. That said, there's a lot of great sake. The most popular sake among local people, besides Yoemon, in a way, a lot of people think The Wire is the best TV show in the States. So if you ask what's the best TV show, they'll say, well, except for The Wire, it's so-and-so. That's probably old information, but they used to talk like that. Well, among sake aficionados, they'll say, they'll say, well, besides Yoemon, it's their favorite is this, because Yoemon is just, of course, it's the best. And some other really good ones are Akabu, Hamachidori. But yeah, I'll stop talking about sake because if you don't live here, these names don't mean anything to you. Um, Miki says, I'm so glad you're appealing Iwate. I want to thank you to convey my appreciation in person. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Miki, I love Iwate so much. I really think this is an underappreciated prefecture and all of Tohoku. I just, yeah, love, this whole Tohoku and Iwate so much. There's so much great stuff to know here. Khrushchev, do people ask you hitori desu ka like they did to me every time I used to solo hike? Sometimes, but not always. I've been asked that before, but it's not like I get asked that all the time. Usually people will just be like, oh, konnichiwa, or something. Yeah, that's not as common. Maybe you were hiking really hardcore places where it's more common to hike in a group. I'm mostly doing day hikes, not overnight. And yeah, people don't ask that often. Oh, PJV, I just see that you're talking about learning how to surf. There's a lot of surfing on the coast of Iwate. A lot of people are into surfing. Near Kamaishi, there's some famous surfing spots. And also, I think in northern Miyagi Prefecture as well, there's some places that people do surf. I personally have never surfed being growing up in the middle of a country. But yeah, for people who like surfing, you can definitely do that up here. Do you prefer hot or cold sake? I definitely prefer cold sake. And I used to, part of that is, one of that reasons is because when I first started drinking sake and I didn't know anything about sake, I was living in Tokyo and I went to a little, not so little, medium sized izakaya in Takadano Baba, still around now, actually. It's called Toriyasu. And it's famous among the Waseda university students. And they serve hot sake really cheaply, and it goes down really easy. It's really smooth, and just got way too drunk. And next day felt horrible. And so, if you get drunk badly on something, you develop sort of a bad association with it. For a while, I just didn't want to go near hot sake because I got too drunk with it. But also, a lot of the sake that I prefer is better cold. I mean, depending on the sake, there's different temperatures that you can appreciate it. In some cases, warming it up really unlocks the aroma in certain ways. But for the types that I tend to prefer, they're better cold. Nambu Bijin sake is served in the first class cabin in JL. Nambu Bijin, which is in Ninohe in Morioka, or in Iwate, is really probably the biggest volume wise, one of the biggest volume wise sake producers, and it's even in the States. I've been up there. I've guided tours of that sake brewery several times, and I remember that 30% at that time, maybe more now, but 30% of their sake is exported. So they're really good at international marketing. My fiance and I love watching your videos, Kim. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's so much beautiful scenery. I'm not going to run out anytime soon. Inoka Adventure says, fair enough. I heard that good sake is better cold, so you can taste it, and bad sake is better hot. Yeah, I actually used to think that was the case exclusively, and that is a good general rule. But I've since, when I was studying for this certification thing, learned that there is some good sake that's actually better warm. So that's a fair general rule, but it's not always the case. Pal says, what's the IT hub for North Japan? How are IT jobs in Morioka? That's got to be Sendai. Sendai is the biggest city in northern Japan, and there's a lot more big companies there. There's not really there are IT jobs in Morioka, but it's for Japanese people. I don't know of any IT companies up here that hire foreigners. There's some production companies that I knew a Spanish guy who was working as a graphic designer for a company that made TV shows and commercials. And so there's isolated cases, but he was completely fluent in Japanese. And so he was just like a Japanese staff member, more or less. There are lots of digital nomads who come up here for various reasons. And so if you're self-employed, you could do IT stuff, obviously, anywhere you want. But I don't know of any IT places up here that hire foreigners outside of, say, Sendai. Francisco Lopez says, maybe you've answered this before, but do you have Japanese citizenship? No, I have permanent residence, which means that I can come and go as I please. I don't need an exit visa or anything like that. And it never expires. I don't have to renew my status. or anything. I can't vote, but I have to pay global taxes. And if I were to get Japanese citizenship, I would have to give up my American citizenship because Japan doesn't allow um, naturalized people to have dual citizenship. And so, yeah, I'm okay with just being a permanent resident. I don't need to give up my US citizenship. Um, what is the most challenging mountain that I've hiked? That's a good question. Hmm. I'm going to have to say that the more challenging trails along Mount Iwate win. I have hiked Mount Chokai and Mount Fuji, both of which are taller or higher meter wise, and in some cases longer than various hikes at Mount Iwate, but they're also easier and involve less of an incline. If you take the one of the long trails, like from the Matsukawa Hot Springs, all the way across Ubakura, Kurokura, Onigajo, all the way up to the summit of Mount Iwate, or do one of the incarnations of the 50K traverse, Mount Iwate is much harder than Mount Fuji or some of the other mountains in terms of some of the steep inclines and things. So still Mount Iwate wins for me. Of course, there are easy ways up Mount Iwate that you can go up and down in 4 or 5 hours if you're fast. But most people, if it's your first time, even those will take you 10 hours. So when I say a time it takes me, that's if you're someone who hikes a lot. Because anyone who hikes a lot, you just get faster. It's just the way it is. I'm not bragging. It's just a fact. If you hike all the time, you can do it in a better pace. But if you're a first-time hiker, something that takes me 4 hours would take you 10. It's just, yeah, how it is. What boots do you use for your winter hikes? I have a pair of nice Sorels that say they're registered for minus 30 degrees Celsius. I haven't tested that, but I have some nice Sorels that I like. And socks are, of course, really vital too. I have some really warm, thick winter wool socks that cost like $40 just for the socks that I pair with the Sorels for winter hikes. Have you previously done much traveling to other countries? Chris asks. Yeah, I used to travel a lot more. Not so well, of course, pandemic, who can? But I used to travel to Nepal done a lot of trekking, not mountain climbing, but just walking in like around the Annapurna circuit and the foothills of the Himalayas in Nepal. I've been to Nepal, I think 6 times. I've been to India, spent a few months in India. I really like South Asia. I studied India, Tibet, Nepal in my university days way back, and so I've traveled a lot to South Asia, also to Southeast Asia because I love spicy food. And I go to Mexico from time to time. I try to go to Mexico every other year. I like Mexico a lot. And my parents go there, so I meet my parents in Mexico. Let's see. Do you accept cryptocurrency also? I would. I don't know how to, but I haven't really looked into cryptocurrency, and that I should. But if you can find a way to give me cryptocurrency, I would say no. I don't know how to do that. You need to know Nihongo to work in an IT company in Japan. Yeah, generally speaking, unless you're in a big city like Tokyo, yeah, you pretty much need to know Japanese. Toast bread with eyelashes. In Germany, it's 3:45 in the morning. Wow, thank you for being awake. I'm awake just so I can watch your live stream. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I hope, yeah, you don't suffer for it later today. Have you ever been to Tategamori, Nikki asks? A restaurant, the restaurant cuisine there is heaven. Tategamori, no, where is that? I haven't heard that. I'll have to Google it. Is that a town, or is that the name of a restaurant? Tategamori. I don't know. What's your favorite Japanese drink? Well, that has to be Nihonshu, Japanese sake. Yeah, don't drink it that often because trying to drink less alcohol in general these days. But I love sake. Good sake is wonderful. And but there's a lot of good Japanese drinks. Really like the traditional matcha, with the whisk and stuff is really nice as well. Yeah, there's a lot to love drinking in Japan. Not COVID notwithstanding, have you ever thought about visiting Korea or China or Eastern Russia? Have you visited anywhere else in East Asia? I actually lived in China for a year before I moved to Japan because I was studying Tibetan language. And in order to spend time in Tibet, I spent about 3 weeks there. I had a student visa from China so that I could go to Tibet. Back when I was there, you couldn't really just go to Tibet. It changes. I don't know what it is now, but back then it used to change almost every month on whether you could visit Tibet. So I lived in China for a year. I have been to Korea twice, just for a week each time. Korea's wonderful. I love Korean food. Korean food is great. Never been to Russia. I'd be curious. Yeah, absolutely. Is the water cold in Iwate? ocean does it face? Pacific, Sea of Japan, East China Sea. Okay, so yeah, Iwate, the water, well, it's on the east side of Japan, so it's facing the Pacific Ocean. The Sanriku coast is the coast there, and it's just a gorgeous coastline with these cliffs and rias, they're called. These it's a really neat shape. It's beautiful, and the water can be cold, but it's not that cold. Just 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, about 10 days ago, I was on the coast and I was up to my waist in the water, and it didn't feel particularly cold this time of year, so it's not that cold. Emily Morton, have you tried that Canadian-run breakfast restaurant? Yes, there is. Okay, so there is a restaurant in Morioka called Brunch, and it's run by an older Canadian gentleman, and it is amazing. I mean, maybe if you live in the West and you come here, you don't care about Western breakfast brunch food, but as someone who's been in Japan for 2 decades, it's so wonderful to have a real, authentic, fantastic Western brunch restaurant in town. And they now have food delivery services in Morioka, a service called Walt, and Uber Eats. And so now I can even order delivery. I mean, it's a little expensive, so I don't to get it delivered. I don't do that much, but I've been there 3 times already. They have falafels. The Canadian place in Morioka is just wonderful. If you're in Japan and you're like missing Western breakfast, then that place is heaven. They also have great coffee and unlimited refills, just like you're in the States, which is not a thing in Japan generally. Scott Gilligan, how do you become a permanent resident if you're a U.S. citizen? I would love to move there someday, but don't want to give them. Yeah. No, don't give up your. Well, it's a hassle. I wouldn't recommend giving up U.S. citizenship. You can get it now after you've worked for 5 years. It used to be 10 years. Now it's 5. They've reduced it, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through. It's now possible if you just have been paying taxes and working and you're contributing to the country. There's like a whole system for it. And if you Google it, there's a lot of great information on the internet about how to get permanent residence. Of course, if you marry a Japanese national, that's kind of a shortcut. And then I think even just after 2 or 3 years in Japan, if you're on a spouse visa or married to a Japanese person, you can get permanent residence. And so that's an easy way to do it as well. Miki says, in Tono, there's a traditional inn which accommodate only 1 room per day. Nice. Yeah, Tono has maybe you've heard the term kominka. There are these traditional old sort of thatched roof houses, and there's a magaria, which are unique to this northern area, which means bent house, like an L shape, and where they used to have a stable with a horse living in the same house. In fact, I did sort of a video about that as well last year. And there's a couple that are run by, there's at least one place that I stayed where it's run by an old couple, and you can stay in there, and it's just like a gorgeous, like a time capsule, like a museum. And so if you Google for that, there's some really great options for staying with families, sort of homestaying at really unique places in Tono that are just amazing. And the people are so warm and friendly. Francisco Franco, how is buying Western sized clothes and footwear in Japan? Could you buy it on Japanese? And I bet you could buy it on Amazon, but I generally just go to places locally so I can try stuff on. I'm not that big, really. I'm 173 centimeters, 5'8", in American things. So for me, like I can just buy M size clothing and it's fine. I have slightly big feet. I'm an American size 10, which is 27.5 centimeters in the Japanese size. And I have no problem finding shoes. I know some people who are quite large and have like huge feet that make my feet look small by comparison. They have problems. But if you're not like a basketball player or a huge athlete, I don't think it's that difficult these days. People are getting bigger from diet or whatever. There's a lot of Japanese people who are larger these days. It's not like 100 years ago. So I don't think it's a big problem these days. Have you ever visited any other Latin American countries besides Mexico? Sadly, I have not. I've been to Mexico like, I don't know, like 10 or 12 times, but I haven't been to any other Latin American places. I desperately want to go. I want to go to South America. I want to go through Central America. I would like to, but I haven't. Black Autumn, which cities in Toku has your favorite hot spring? That's a great question. Hanamaki, just south of here, has my favorite hot spring in terms of water quality. There's a place called Yukaien, which Yamanokami Onsen Yukaien. And it's, in fact, let me type that out. I can type in chat too. I've been doing that. Yukaien, I think, I don't know. It's in Hanamaki, and that place is got the most amazing water. It's like some hot springs, you can't tell. It just feels like hot water, but it's like there's a thick, heavy, slippery slickness to it. You touch your skin when you're wet with that water, it's just slippery. It's amazing. And it's alkaline, not acidic, so it's not hard on you. It's just amazing. Osawa Hot Springs, which I did a video of, is also in Hanamaki, and that has very nice water as well, and it's really affordable. There's also in Akita, the Nyuto Onsenkyo, which I really should do a video about. I will. And that one has some really atmospheric. There's some of them are famous, some are not so famous, but there's a cluster of, I think, 6 different ones. Surenoyu, Magorokuyu, Kuroyu, Taenoyu, that are all in the area. That's really great. There's great hot springs everywhere up here. I really need to make I'm working on making a website. And when I get that up, I'll have like just a list of recommended hot springs and some that accept tattoos, because that's an issue I know. Where did you live in China? 我会不会说中文？我会说一点汉语，当时忘掉了比较多，我没有这么注意说了，所以我忘掉了。Yeah, I can't speak. I can speak a few things still in Chinese, but I lived in Nanjing for most of that time, but that was like 20 years ago. That was 1999 to 2000 that I was in Nanjing. I studied at the Nanjing Daxue for one semester of Chinese in China. So it's mostly gone from me. Favorite part of Korea? I'm not qualified. I really just was in Seoul and went just eating my way around Seoul a couple times. I haven't really traveled outside of Seoul, so I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on Korea. Do you think you and Chris Broad will do another collab video in the future? I hope so. He's really friendly. I mean, I can say this. I go drinking with him about once a month. He's a friend. He's really, really busy and an amazingly hard worker. I'm sure at some point there'll be an opportunity to do something else with him, but I don't want to be annoying, be like, oh, collab with me, because he's got so much stuff to do. I don't want to bug him. He's a friend and he's a good guy. So probably sooner or later, I would guess. Wait, Waltz is also in Japan? Yes, it is. It started from Finland. Oh, I didn't know that. I just heard of it when it first came to Morioka. In fact, Charla told me about it because I'd never heard of it, but she was so excited. She said she would never have to cook again after it started delivering. Let's see. Francisco Lopez, do you know how difficult it is to own a business in Japan? Oh, well, I mean, taxes are difficult, but hire a tax accountant. It's not that hard. I mean, my business, I've been self-employed for 20 years. And what I have is a sole proprietorship, a kojin jigyo, where you file what's called the aoiru shinkoku, the blue form taxes. And that's the easiest sort of quasi-business because it's a sole proprietorship. But I have friends who have godo gaisha or kabushiki gaisha, which are more official forms of businesses. There's a lot more difficult tax filing, but you can do it. Lots of foreigners do it. It's not that hard. I mean, it's hard, but it's totally doable for foreigners. And you can sponsor your own visa. It's very handy. Sorry, I just finished my shift at work and I'm dead and falling asleep at 4 a.m. Well, Luciano, thank you so much for visiting. And pleasant dreaming. Artsy Rose, since sake is your favorite, is there a specific one you like? Flavor, brand, texture, etc.? There's tons. So I mentioned before, Yoemon, also Akabu, also Hamachidori. There's a Yamahai that Hamachidori takes that's not expensive and really amazing. There's later on I should just sake is hard to do in a video because it's so about the taste and the aroma, and so it's not good for the visual medium, but I should still maybe I'll do a video just recommending a bunch of sake. So if you do visit Japan, you'll know what my recommendations are to buying. Or I can just write a community post. I get it. Is my house Kominka style? No, it is not. My house is, it used to be a liquor store with the family home attached. So it's huge. It's like 10 rooms, depending on how you count them. And there's 2 washits, 2 Japanese tatami rooms that have really nice ranma. And I'll try and do a house tour video too. I wanted to do it here, but technical difficulties. I couldn't figure a way to do that with live. So I'll show the house eventually. But there's 2 rooms that look like a kominka if you're just in those 2 rooms. But the rest of the house is kind of normal Western style. And I need to I've renovated some rooms, not other rooms. Obviously, I haven't renovated this room. You can kind of tell from the not so nice wallpaper that I haven't gotten around to taking off and replacing. You should do voice work as your voice. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I do voice work, actually. I do narration, but up here in Morioka, there's nearly there's rarely narration work for English, and so 3 times a year-ish, I'll get a narration gig where I'll go and do like say the audio for like a museum recording, sometimes TV commercials, or well, there's a lot of things I've done, but yeah, it's not frequent. I get a few narration gigs a year. That's it. Have you ever been to the? No, I have not been to the Ryukyus. Um, rec- Aditya, recommended places to visit for first-time tourists in Japan. First time tour. Well, first time, as I said before, what they call the golden route between Tokyo and Kyoto is the standard. Also, Kanazawa is really nice. Hiroshima, Kamakura. I mean, the areas now. I recommend for your second or third visit to come up to where I am because if you've never been to Japan, I feel like it makes sense to get the really famous stuff out of your system. Go see those spots like Himeji Castle or the Fushimi Inari Shrine with the tunnel of the Torii Gates in Kyoto. I mean, see the places that you've seen 100 times in movies because you probably want to see those. The Arashiyama, the bamboo forest, see all that stuff. And then your second time, come to the places left traveled, the undiscovered areas up here. Because if you just come up here, it's great, and I'd say do it, but you might feel like, oh, but I wanted to come to Japan, and so you should first maybe see the most iconic places your first time, maybe. Speaking of voice, my throat's starting to go. Are there places around the world you really want to go hiking? There's some great places here in Australia, but I think everyone is afraid of the space. Yeah, there's tons of places. The United States has some of the most amazing national parks, and even though I'm American, I haven't been to most of them, and so I really want to hike around a lot of the national parks in the States, New Zealand. I've seen a lot of amazing photos and videos in Switzerland and Spain, northern Italy. The whole world is full of gorgeous places I want to go hiking. Just time and money. I'll try and get there sometime. Australia, though, yeah, because of the horribly scary spiders and snakes, isn't in the top priority. Slightly lower tier because yeah, I'm a little timid with that. Sarmiento, have you, Charlotte or Chris, ever thought about opening a business in Japan, like a bar or a place where Westerners could feel at home? I don't know about Charlotte or Chris. I mean, I asked them, but for me personally, I did consider opening like a cafe or a bar a few years ago. I was thinking about that, how that would be, but the lifestyle that would entail, I'd be rooted in that spot, have to be there all the time. And so in the end, when visualizing what my life would be like, trying to make a go of that, I decided that's not how I wanted to live, being rooted to one business. I like being able to travel and go off during the day. And oh, it's nice weather. Today I'm going hiking. I like being able to do that. If I was running a physical establishment like that, I wouldn't be able to do that unless I was doing it as an independently wealthy person and I just put money into it and could have staff running it and just show up once in a while and then I'd do it. But yeah, I'm yeah, living off savings right now with COVID draining most of my income sources. Do you have a kotatsu and how much do you love it? Haha. So if you don't know what a kotatsu is, in the cold seasons up here, in the winter mostly, it's a table, a low to the ground table. So you're sitting on a pillow on the floor and there is a heater under the table and a blanket. So there's like a blanket over the table and then the tabletop over the blanket. So it looks like a normal table with a blanket drooping down to the ground and heat underneath it. Of course I have a kotatsu. Everybody in Iwate has kotatsu and I love it to death. I live in the kotatsu when it's really cold. Yeah, kotatsu are just dreamy. Really like them. I remember that you have an Airbnb. How's it going? Yeah, I shut down my Airbnb during the pandemic just because 90% of my guests were foreign tourists anyways, and there weren't any. And also, I just didn't want to stress about all the different things with COVID. And I'm just now reopening it to allow reservations for mid-September because I'll get my second Pfizer shot later this month. At the end of this month, I'll have my second dose of Pfizer. So by the first week of September, I'll be fully vaccinated, and so I'll feel safe about hosting people. And so, yeah, I'll probably unblock my Airbnb because I just blocked it off so people couldn't make reservations on it. But I think I already have it unblocked for the second half of September onward. But I haven't had guests in the longest time. Austria is an absolutely amazing place. Like, yes, I'm sure it is. I would love to go hiking there. I've seen photos. Austria looks amazing. Arch support for your feet. Yeah, I my boots have some arch support, but I haven't actually put inserts in addition to the way the boots were naturally in mine. I don't have a problem with flat feet personally. I have fairly good arches. But I have a friend who I hike with, and Alice from UK, I believe, or maybe she doesn't. I don't know. I don't remember who. I shouldn't say who, but I know some people do buy the specific inserts to put in. But for hiking, I personally don't use any. Between your time in Tibet and trips to Nepal, were you training up for Everest? No, you have to have like $100,000 or something, or maybe it's $150,000. It's really expensive to hike Mount Everest, and yeah, I don't have that kind of money, and so I didn't. Um, but I would love. I have seen Everest from a different. I've gone to like Nagarkot, and there's some places where you can sort of get a view of Everest, but I haven't gone up it. Artsy Rose, will you do a video on budgeting trips to Japan? Yeah, why not? That's actually a fairly good idea. Thank you. Thank you for the suggestion. I hadn't considered that. Yeah, there's a lot of ways where you could save money. So I assume you mean by that on like Japan on the cheap, Japan on a shoestring. Going to Japan and getting as much out of a little money as possible. I could try that. I mean, to be honest though, I live here, and so my experience is a little different from backpackers. I haven't backpacked across Japan in the longest time, but that's a good idea. I can look into it and talk to because I've had a lot of backpackers come through my Airbnb, and I've met a lot of people who've done interesting things like cycle on a road bike all the way from Hokkaido down to the tip of Kyushu. I actually had two different Airbnb guests who did that. I believe an Australian and a Danish woman. They were so cool. Um, Inaka Adventure. Good thing about New Zealand, basically no danger anywhere. Yeah, yeah, New Zealand's great. No dangerous animals, just need to watch for the cold. Yeah, New Zealand's amazing that way. I have a couple of my closest friends up here are from New Zealand, actually, and so I hear a lot about it. And also, I've heard the one thing you got to worry about in New Zealand, or the way that Japanese travelers get in trouble hiking there, is that it's a lot bigger in terms of hiking areas than Japan. In Japan, there aren't even the national parks aren't that large, whereas in New Zealand, it's basically you run out of water. You get lost, you get off trail, or you screw up somehow with your navigation, and you're really out in the middle of nowhere. You can be lost, and starve. And that's yeah, the cold and starving is I've heard how people get in trouble in New Zealand. But yeah, no bears, nothing poisonous. Um, Pixel Vixen in Japan. Morning from wet and soggy Miyako. Oh hey out there. Yeah, it's cloudy out there, but it's not raining here in Morioka. Miyako is just yeah, an hour and a half drive. There's a new highway that actually opened up. They built a whole bunch more tunnels through the mountains, and so now it's much faster to get to Miyako, which is another great place to visit. I've been driving through there a lot recently on my way up to Tanohata, north of Miyako, which I love the coastal cliffs there. Any good new beer discoveries around you? New beer discoveries. Well, at the risk, I'm all right. I'm going to repeat myself, but I'm always praising a beer made in Keisen Numa in Miyagi called Black Tide because it's amazing and they make so much good beer. It's just they have an American and a couple of Japanese master brewers, and it's just amazing. Tono Brewing in Tono. There's a newer one. There's two different brewing companies in Tono now, but the newer of the two, it's run by some young guys who came up from I believe someplace outside of the region. They're one of the people who came and settled to sort of help re-energize a dying small town, and they make really good beer with local hops as well. And you can actually buy like I forget what you call it, not a grifter, but it's like a sealed one. So you get the tap beer, it's sealed up, and you can bring it back to your hotel if you don't want to sit in there. And it's just a deposit, so in the next morning or whatever, you can return the container. There's new discoveries. Yeah, I haven't been out drinking much because of the pandemic, so I haven't really discovered any new beers per se. But there's still so much good craft beer in Japan. There's a new brewing company now. There's a brewing company from Tokyo that expanded up to Hachimantai, and they now do Dragon Eye beer, which is kind of nice cans. It's a little expensive for me to drink on a normal basis. It's 420 yen, so a little under $4 for a normal 350 milliliter can. But they have an IPL, an Indian Pale Lager, an Imperial Pale Lager that's quite good. I think it's called Magma. and it's good. Do you encounter many birders on your hikes? Not really. I know there's tons of birders in Wisconsin, where I'm from, and people like and know about birds up here, but I can't say I've met people who are clearly birders, like looking and identifying birds. I don't think that's as much of a thing here. It seems like people are way more into flowers. I mean, flowers in the plant life. It's like all the Japanese people. Yeah, forgive me for generalizing, but seriously, when I go hiking, everybody comes based on when certain flowers are in bloom. And there's flowers that bloom different months. And I've actually memorized the names of about 12 of them now. I'm slowly becoming like a local, but there's so many flowers. And there's a certain mountain, Hayachine, which has a flower that exists there. It's a type of Japanese edelweiss, and it blooms nowhere else in the world. It only exists on that mountain, and people go nuts over it. So it's people are much more into identifying and photographing flowers here than birds. And at first I was kind of like, meh, but I've sort of gotten into it too. It's just fun to try and memorize as many types of flowers as possible. Let's see here. What am I missing? Hey, Norm, have you always taken good care of your arches? Norm, I'm Quinlan, by the way. I don't know if you're joking. Norm is the Tokyo Lens guy. I'm Quinlan. Um, any advice for someone who wants to hike like you but has collapsed arches? Um, well, I mean, I assume that you just get the inserts, right? You can get those inserts that have arch support and put them in your hiking boots. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry if that's too obvious. I'm given that I don't have arch problems, I haven't done a lot of researching into that, but I would just assume that buying the little arch, because for running shoes, I haven't done a lot of running lately. I should, but I used to do I used to run about 12 or 13K 3 or 4 times a week. This is back 3 years ago, but then for my running shoes, I did buy arch sport inserts for those. So I assume you just put them in your hiking boots, right? Sorry if that's not a great answer. Etsushi, I've watched most of your videos. They're all fun. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'd be interested in a video about your trip planning process. How do you choose where to go, which accommodations to pick, scheduling, food decisions, your own budget priorities? Ah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of yeah, I could do a video on that. That's a good idea. I haven't thought about that, but yeah, I could definitely come up with what I do, and I could yeah maybe plan a trip and show you what I'm doing it. Yeah, how I'm doing it. How I research maps and times involved and how much food and water to bring. The weather. Yeah, thank you. I'll have to remember that and work on that soon. And Pixel Vixen, I like covering sections of the Michinoku Trail. Yeah, this Michinoku Coastal Trail, which goes across Iwate, is really it's really nice. I will try to explore and cover more aspects of that. What's your okay? Blank Autumn says, "What's your record for Wanko Soba, and what's your favorite local food in Tohoku?" Okay, first of all, if you don't know, soba is buckwheat, and soba also refers to buckwheat noodles. Um, and wanko soba is something, it's a local thing here, mostly in Morioka and Hanamaki, so in a few cities in Iwate, where you get these little bowls with one bite of these noodles, and it's an all-you-can-eat sort of food competition, competing with yourself for how many bowls, how many mouthfuls of noodles you can eat. And so you sit, there's a staff member, a waiter, waitress standing next to you. And as soon as you eat one, you stack the bowl and immediately they give you, so you have one eating bowl and they dump a bowl into your eating bowl of noodles, and then you stack that. And so you eat it and they keep just refilling. Hi, yoiko, hi. And they have this funny, thing in the local dialect they say when they're doing it. And you, without taking a break, have to just keep eating as much noodles as you can. And I think my record is like 92 or 93. A lot of people eat more than that, but I've just felt terrible. That was lunchtime, I think, and I just was dead for the rest of the day. I've done it probably 2 or 3, maybe probably, to be honest, 3 or 4 times, because your parents visit or friends visit and they want to do it, and so I've gone with people. But now when I take people, I won't do it anymore. I've done it enough times. I don't want. I just feel terrible afterwards. I love soba. Soba is great. It's delicious, but man, carb loading that much until you just can't fit anymore, recipe for feeling awful. So it's one of those things like climbing Mount Fuji. Do it once for the photo. People love it on Instagram. You've got like 100 bowls stacked all around you. It looks great. It's fun. But more than once, oh, the misery. Local food that I like in Tohoku, there's so many great foods up here. The lamb is really good. Also, I like force these sansai, mountain wild vegetables. You can only eat them, at certain times of year, and that is definitely a favorite. I love shiroke, koshiabura, taranome. There's all these great wild vegetables, and I every spring make at least 1 or 2 videos foraging for those. Morioka, by the way, has 3 famous noodles: wanko soba, ramen, cold noodles, not ramen, but ramen, and jajamen, which are sort of miso paste, thicker noodles, also from China originally. A lot of people who were occupying China in the Manchuria area during the war came back and brought their taste for noodles with them. That history is actually an interesting topic for a different conversation. I was born and raised in Tohoku, but I'm now living in Tokyo. So your videos are, oh, well, thank you. Yeah, hope you're enjoying Tokyo. I lived in Tokyo for a long time as well. Toast bread with eyelashes. I have a question. Did you ever visit the one mysterious Kitsune spirit shrine in Nara Prefecture? I have not. I've been to Nara, but only once or twice. So I'll keep that in mind next time I go. Sounds fascinating. I'll Google it. Thanks for the tip. Have you seen psilocybin, psychedelic mushrooms, on your hikes? I have not. I believe they grow on manure, on cow pies, don't they? Out in open fields. I don't think they grow along mountain streams or anything. So I don't think I'm likely to see them. If you like walking, yeah, Miki, I don't know where you've been, Miki-san, for the coastal trail, but if you've been from South Fudai through Tanohata and northern Iwaizumi, that whole area of the hike near Unosedangai is just amazing. That's some of my favorite spots. And the Kita Yamazaki, just south of the Kita Yamazaki cliffs, is, yeah, amazing. Bidi Bidi, you a fan of baseball at all? Thoughts on local legend Shohei Ohtani? Is he a big deal in Iwate? Is he a big deal in Iwate? Is the Pope Catholic? Yeah, Ohtani is everybody loves Ohtani. So Ohtani, probably Americans know him too. He's now in Major League Baseball, and he's from, I believe, Oshu City, but he went to Hanamaki Higashi high school in Hanamaki City, and so he was living in Hanamaki for a while. And I actually bumped into him at a kaiten sushi, a sushi go-round restaurant in Hanamaki 3 years ago. I don't know, a few years ago. It was right before he went over to the States. So I don't know if that's 3 or 4 years ago. But excuse me. I even saw him and sort of said hello, and he was friendly, and he's a local legend. Everybody loves him. I'm not personally a huge baseball fan, but I'm aware of baseball. I was a baseball fan as a kid. Do I have a Japanese name? Did you have one when you were a student? Well, I never studied Japanese in school. I studied, Tibetan and Chinese and Spanish. So I never academically studied Japanese. I don't have a Japanese name per se. I do have a Japanese nickname. So I'm Quinlan, right? And Quinlan starts with a Q. So a lot of my Japanese friends can't pronounce Quinlan because it's like Quinlan. It's hard. And so I just become Q, and sometimes Q-chan. And yeah, but I prefer like Westerners, non-Japanese people calling me Q-chan is really weird feeling. I prefer Quinlan or Q is fine. But for Japanese people, Q-chan is okay. And some people even call me Q-san. And yeah, but that's close enough to a Japanese name. Do you have any tips for beginner hikers? I'd love to hike traveling, but I don't have enough experience. Well, I just say start with more casual, smaller places. Like up here, Hachimantai, Himekami. There's a lot of more smaller mountains. So I just say start with the shorter day hikes and just slowly work up to it. Don't try and tackle something so much that you're going to be miserable or hurt yourself. Just take, do casual hikes at first and slowly get into it is what I would say. Any more exploring abandoned place video with Chris? I'd love to ask Chris. I'm available. He's the busy guy. Yeah, if he invites me, I'm totally down. Otterin22. Guess the flower watching thing correlates with appreciation of the change of seasons. Seems to be a thing in Japan. Yes, it is very much a thing. And yeah, flowers are definitely one way in which people appreciate the seasons. So yeah. I feel super bad now. Sorry, Quinn. Also, I think of both you and Norm. Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. It's no big deal about confusing my name with Norm. It's fine. We both are North Americans with beards. Fair enough. Um, my outdoor YouTubers and both gentle speakers, so I got confused. Yeah, it's all good. Let's see. Japan Trail Cam. What's up from Kyushu? Yeah, so Japan Trail Cam is a channel that has like a motion detector camera that they put on the mountains, and they capture like wildlife. And he actually sent me up a camera to use. It's like a camera. It's like an alarm, or so you attach it, and it turns on when an animal goes by. And so I went and put that out in the mountains 10 days ago or so. And so eventually I'm going to have to go fish it out of the mountains again and see if we got any bears or wild boars or deer, kamoshka or whatever on video and send it back to him. So thanks for that, Japan Trail Cam. He's also, I believe, Kyushu Trails, another hiking channel down in Kyushu. Okay, just so you know, it's 11:20 my time right now, and I think my voice is starting to go. I'm starting to get a hoarse throat, and so maybe in another 10 minutes or so, I'm going to sign off. I'm having so much fun, but eventually I'm not going to be able to speak anymore. So yeah, we'll just save the rest of it. If we still have tons to talk about after that for another time, and if there's enough interest, I could just do this, more frequently. It's been a long time since my last live stream, but I'll try and do it more often. Okay, but still, I'll keep going for a while longer until my throat dies. So this might have been asked a few times, but I need to ask regardless, why do you hike only in the north? Why don't you include the south? Well, that's an easy question. I live in the north. I live in Iwate Prefecture, which is Tohoku. It's Kita Tohoku, the northern part of the Tohoku area. And so, yeah, it's easy for me to hike around here. And I like this area. It's less discovered. That's why. But there is an area in Nagano, the Japanese Alps, the North Alps and South Alps, and I really do want to go hiking there. I've been seeing all kinds of photos and videos from Japanese hiking YouTubers and just from people on Instagram that I know going there, and it looks so amazing. The Japanese Alps in Nagano. Yeah, I really want to go. Looks amazingly stunning. And so it's not like I think the mountains up here are better than that. If anything, honestly, there's some probably more amazing mountains down in Nagano. It's just everybody knows about them and they're famous, where the ones up here maybe are less traveled. But it costs a lot of time, money. Just getting there is hard. So that's why I don't go hiking down there much. I have to make sure I don't have any work, and I have to, pay for, have all the gear. How am I going to, you know what I mean? It's harder to go all the way down to Nagano and hike there. That's why I haven't been doing that. Danielle, which restaurants do Wanko Soba and Morioka? I'm getting ideas of places to go for the next trip. A number of places do. The most famous one is Azumaya, and that's the most picturesque. There's a few locations, but if you go to the Honten, the main restaurant of Azumaya, wow, my voice is really going. That's the best place to do Wanko Soba. They can also do vegan dashi, or vegan dip, because you dip the noodles in a little bit of sort of a soy-based sauce, tsuyu, and eat them. Usually that would have fish broth, but Azumaya accommodates vegans. And so if you give them a little bit of extra notice, maybe even without notice, but better to give them notice, they can do that vegan for you. So that's handy. Interesting piece of history, thanks. Didn't know about jajangmyeon. Yeah. I enjoy the noodle dish. My record was 66. Hey, I beat somebody. Didn't want to destroy my trip from eating too much. Blank Autumn, you are wiser than me. That's smart. Stop at 66 and you have still the day ahead of you. Eat 90, and if you're like me, you're just going to want to lay down and moan for a while. Riley Bin. Hey, Quinlan, in the future, if you have fan subscribers visiting Tohoku, would you ever do hikes with them? Would be great to have a local guide up Mount Iwate on my next trip. Yeah, I'm registered with a number of 3 or 4 now local tour companies. So I'm going to be doing work as a through guide and also as a hiking guide with them. And also for people who contact me directly, I'd love to guide, but because of, I'm trying to make a job out of being a guide, as much as I'd love to just be like, yeah, friendly, let's go hike together. And maybe I can do that sometimes, but generally speaking, I'd want to do it as a guide and, get paid somewhat to do it. But in that case, yeah, absolutely. And then I'll treat it as a guide thing, handle transportation. I can, tell you the local history, stories, point out some interesting plant life, and help you plan a little bit. So I'd like to do it as a work thing, as a guide thing, because I'm trying to set myself up more in that direction. So the answer to that is yes, but yeah, I'll eventually maybe set up some plans and prices and stuff. I'm sorry, it's not just a friendly yes, let's go thing. Maybe in certain cases I might be able to do that, but as a general rule, I need to eat. you know. Um, Hello, in your experience, where is the best hiking place closest to Tokyo for a beginner? Well, if you're an absolute beginner, I don't know if it really counts. Well, it counts as hiking. There's a place called Mount Takao, which everybody goes up, and it's in my mind, it's kind of a walk through the city because but Mount Takao is the easiest one. So I'd say if you're an absolute beginner, Mount Takao. Probably also you go out to what's it called, Okutama, Ome and Okutama to the west of Tokyo, or in the west area of Tokyo, has some beautiful, I think, casual hiking out there as well. And Chichibu in Saitama, just day tripping to the north, is really nice. Hey, Quinlan, I know you've been in Japan for, oh, hey, Renta, I remember you, for a long time, and I'm wondering if you want to live in another country like Korea or something down the road. My ideal would be somehow figuring out a way to live, say, 6 or 9 months out of the year in Japan, and the other 3 to 6 months split between, say, the United States and other countries, or just traveling. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but if I could ever financially figure it out, I'd ideally have a lifestyle that's, I don't know what's the word for it. Not itinerant, because that would imply moving around, but more like split, a life split between, say, half the year or 9 months of the year here and the rest somewhere else. That's my dream. See if I ever get there. Yes, this color is still available. It's I forget if I think it's the forest green one, but you can order this on Teespring. Yeah, check it out. Thank you, Forage Japan, for asking. And yeah, by buying these, you're helping support me. BDB, Japan, hiking, and Otani are three of my favorite things. Living your dream. Well, thank you. Glad to hear that. Come visit. How do you learn to speak Japanese? Well, yeah, living here helps a lot. Now there's so many resources online that you're just drowning them. When I learned Japanese, there were no smartphones. YouTube wasn't really a way to learn language, so I just bought textbook and made just thousands of flashcards and just memorized it. I had already studied Chinese and Tibetan before I tried to learn Japanese, so I wasn't intimidated by it, and I knew some kanji from studying Chinese, so I had a head start, I guess. But I just studied like mad and practiced every second I got. Have you ever thought about doing the Daiki Retto? Oh, Daiki Retto. That's an island or another peninsula. I'm not actually familiar with that place. I'm guessing that it's Retto, so a separated island. But I don't know actually Daiki Retto. Or I'm just having a brain malfunction and I can't remember what it is. But I've certainly never thought about doing it because I'm not very familiar with it. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna sign off here in just a couple minutes before I completely lose the ability to speak. I want to thank you so much for coming and being. This is so much fun, and if you guys want, we can do another one in another 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks. I don't want to do them so often you get sick of seeing me like this or run out of things to talk about. But I enjoy this, and so yeah, maybe in 2 weeks or so we can do another. Yeah. Uzma, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, have a great one. Good adventure. I forget what your name is. I should remember that. Yeah, have a great day. And for everybody who stayed up really late, thanks for staying up to obscene hours to visit. And it's just 11:30, so I might be able to go for a really short afternoon hike. So maybe I'll do that. Yeah, thanks so much, everybody. And yeah, this is a good place to end then. Have a great day. And I'll see you on the trails.